Hi, and welcome to the show. My name is Rob Delella. I'm your host, coming to you from Robyn of Philadelphia Salons. We are an award-winning hair salon chain in Florida, ranked in the top 1% of salons worldwide. We have an amazing team of over 50 talented stylists. We've been in business for 40 years. We're celebrating our 40th year right now. We manufacture our own specialty brand of hair care products. Been doing so for over 25 years. Today and throughout this podcast series, you are going to be taking a peek at behind the scenes, not just in our business, but in our community and in the world of what we're up to and what we're about. Today, we have a very special guest, a longtime partner and a world-class color specialist and master. She's worked at Robyn of Philadelphia Salons for over 19 years. She's a master colorist, has the designation from Wella, has achieved some of the highest levels of designation from some of the largest brands in the world. She also oversees and trains and develops and has developed hundreds of people over the years. And in just the last year, she was responsible for overseeing over 5,000 color services at just the one location. She's been involved in all of them at all of our locations, but that's just in 1 year. And oh yeah, by the way, you do not want to miss it. Later on in the show, Robyn is going to reveal what she's currently obsessed with, the latest trends in hair color. So you don't want to miss that, what she's obsessed with. So here we go. So I was really looking forward to this because I think there's so much that in this whole process that we have to offer, and especially in talking to you, that there's like, the more I thought about us being able to talk together and to share and have a conversation about so many cool things that I think become sort of the way it is for us, but yet in the rest of the world, I recognize how awesome I have it with the team that I have and that we have together. And I was thinking about this. So for those of you that don't know, I have a chance today to have one-on-one, and you get to listen in on this, with somebody who's super, super special and important in my life. And if you're somebody who's in business, by the way, you need somebody like this in your life, because without her, we aren't who we are. And historically, I mean, I could give you so much resume-wise. We're going to talk a lot about that. But who she is in the world is a master colorist. But there's so much more than that in our organization, because if I just look at last year alone, so last year as a company, we did 12,000 color services amongst our three salons. Out of your location alone, there were 5,000. Now, why is that important, or why does that even matter? She has a handle on almost every color formulation that goes in within our company. Like, she's involved in some way or another. She's consulted, which is really, really rare in this business, that you would have this resource always available to you internally. I mean, I was just in there last week, and some people were sharing their circumstances with me around a customer, or an issue with a customer, and the qualification for it was, I consulted with Robyn. Robyn did the consult with me, as if they had gone to these higher being, the Yoda of hair color. And it's really, she's put so much time and effort into who she is. But not only that, a lot of people who get to that level have it be just theirs, and they're holding on to it. She gives it all away all the time, always sharing with everyone. So that is super, super unique. That usually only comes, it's not a normal thing in the business. And it's amazing to have that, because I can, as we develop new stylists and new colorists in our company, there has to be somebody with that heart that is willing to share and give, and not just what the formula is, because that's one aspect of it, right, or why the formula is, but there's also so much more that you give to people too, which is really kind of special and unique too, because it's not just this is why these two colors work together. It's also the developing them. So I'm just always in awe of what she does on a daily basis, hour by hour, guest by guest. And it's something that's unique about us. So we get a chance to talk to her. You get some insight into her mind, which is special and unique in and of itself in the business. She comes from a very different background, and something that I think everybody's going to find useful. So this is Robyn, everybody.
Hi.
Been in our family for 20, just about 20 years now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting there. Yeah.
Pretty
I want
close.
to say we're coming up on 19.
19?
19,
Okay.
yeah.
It feels like my whole life.
Yeah, right here, right back at you. You have all these wonderful things to say about me and about your company, and there's a reason a lot of us have been working here for so many decades. It's because you guys are family, and you're an amazing boss, and I look at you like a brother, and it's not one as annoying as my own brother, but it's been just an amazing work environment, and you've allowed us to be us and grow, and I think that's why you have something so successful.
Well, everybody has a part in building what we are, and you certainly have, because we're now like, I kind of call it like the third generation. Really, we're kind of growing the next generation, because there was the generation before, even like there was who trained you, and that generation.
Lisa and Julie.
Yeah.
2 years I worked under them, and it was amazing. And all I try to do is carry on what they gave me, and to give that back to the next generation.
Yeah.
So it's been a wonderful thing to be a part of, and I love it. So.
Yeah. And you continue to evolve, and because what's unique and special in addition to everything else is the fact that, people have been in this business a long time. You don't always see these, a lot of growth. Sometimes it'll plateau. Oftentimes it plateaus and it just becomes a job where it's
right.
just, producing good results and, having effective retention and guest satisfaction, but it's a plateau, and not where these levels of growth, and not just in sales or the dollars or the number of guests, but growing outside of it, growing personally, emotionally, professionally, in all aspects.
All of that is huge, yeah.
And continue to get better, and that's what's happening. And especially you just continue to break through those barriers of, well, you should have reached that plateau, and then there's this next place you go to, and it's almost like the more you give, the more you grow. It's what I've noticed, because you do contribute and give so much. So
I mean, I can't tell you how many times people are like, well, but it's work. Like, you go there, you work, and you come home. That's not your family. I mean, I get that you spend a lot of time with those people, but we just come to work, and this is work, and then you go home. But to me, that's not it. Like, and I have a hard time swallowing that. And I get that you have work, and you have home, and you have family, but everything for me is merged. I don't know any other way to be. And so I come to work, and this is my family, just like it's my family outside. I love them all equally. And I don't know how to be any other way than that. And I think that for me, that's been something that's allowed me to let just some weight off, because when I come to work, yes, it's my work. Do we all have to be best friends? No, but you kind of are. No matter what, the second I walk in that door, I love you all. And everything that I have is going to go to you guys. And I don't know. I just think that a lot of us feel that way. And I think that's another reason we've become so successful, is because that's just what it is. You come in, and it's not a competition. It's not some place that you're coming in to try and sell. You come, you love your coworkers, you do your job, and it's just, at the end of the day, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I've sat back so many times watching. I think I was just telling you this a couple weeks ago. I got to see Chris and Linda side by side cutting two of my colors, and I just sat there in awe, because they're so technically sound. They've both been there for 19, 25 years, something like that. And I assisted Chris at one point, and it's like, just to watch that, it was just beautiful. And I tell you what, I slept really good that night, because I just go home and I'm like, okay, yeah, they may just be my coworkers, but they're also my family, and I love them. And to see them succeed, and to see how just talented they are. It's like, wow, how did I end up here? Like, how did I get to be so lucky that I get to work near some of the most talented people that I've ever watched cut or color or anything along those lines. It's amazing.
And they share guests and they both all. So she's talking about Linda and Chris, for example, who have been around. They've been in the business a long time, and they go to each other to share or to consult or to get info from, because they don't share every guest, but they have a shared, or they'll come to you for their own hair color, like the story about Chris recently, which is great.
Chris got a new hairdo, or say hair color, taking him back in time.
Yeah, and gave him the wow factor, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
So tell them about that. Like,
oh gosh. Hopefully Chris doesn't kill me for this later, but we're family, so it's fine. So Chris is turning a certain number, and I think he was just kind of blah with his color, and some grays are kind of sparkling in, and he's got this beautiful, curly hair to begin with, and he's like, so what do you think about, lightening my hair, lightening my ends, scrunching it in, because we're talking about, different ways that you can apply lightener with your hands to kind of scrunch the curl in to give you those lighted effects on the ends. And so it was super cute because, we talked about it, and then he came in, I think it was a Wednesday, and I don't know. I just assumed he was working that day, although he wasn't in black and white. So I was like, oh, cool, he's breaking the dress code, right on. So he's talking to me, he's like, so what do you think I should use on this? And I was like, how about flash lift? He's like, yeah, cool. I was thinking about using that. So what developer? I was like, well, it's going to air process, so I'd probably go ahead and go with 40 on the not flash lift, sorry. Scratch that. It was free lights. There it is. Oh my gosh, that took me a second. Anyways, free lights. So he says, what do you think about free lights on this? And I said, I think that's perfect, And he said, well, what developer? And I said, well, it's going to air process. So how about 40 volume? So he said, okay, so free lift or free lights and 40 volume. And I said, absolutely. So he goes and grabs it, and he comes back. Now he's wearing a smock, and he's got the bowl. He's got a pair of gloves, and he sits down and goes, so does anyone want to help me with this? Anyone want to participate? And it was me and one of the other girls. And of course I got up and I helped him, and we were doing it. And, I was kind of doing some hand painting, ended up putting some of my hands and scrunching, of course, with gloves on. And it was super cute. So he processed for a little bit, and he said, I think I'm done. I said, okay, that's cool. Go ahead and get washed out. So he gets washed out. He looks in the mirror, and he was like, oh my gosh. And at this point, I've already got a pre-toner mixed up. And he says, well, I think I'm going to need something stronger. And I said, yeah, no, that's totally fine. We'll do that. But just let me try this first. And he said, okay. So I mixed something he had not used before, which was in our Color Touch line. Some of the newer shades are a little, I want to say, intimidating for people. Those would be some of our really violet and blue shades that can be intimidating. So I mixed something up and put it on. And it was so cute because while it's processing, you had a bunch of people start kind of walking over like, what are you guys doing? What are you using? Explain to me why, explain to me how. So before I do his final toner, I said, why don't you guys rinse that out and towel dry and let him see it? So he goes to the mirror and he sees it. And it was like he had this eye-opening experience. He was like, that just did this? It's like, yeah. And so it's just really cool because it was one of those things where it's not something that you do on your daily regimen at work. When you're doing certain colors, there's sometimes people who give you different ideas, which is one of the reasons I think that sometimes the suites can hinder an artist's ability to grow because you don't have the people around you that you draw inspiration from. And I think no matter how old we get or how long we've been doing this, you always find inspiration in the artists around you. That's really what it's about. So he got to see the middle process with a formula he'd never thought of, with a color he never thought to use, and then brought back to the bowl, and we did our final toner / gloss / glaze / it shifted his base, which is kind of what we wanted to do. We wanted to lighten his ends, give it some sparkle like he'd been at the beach all summer long, but then also shift his base a little bit so that he could just liven up his look. He was so cute afterwards. He was literally just like, oh my gosh, this came out so good. But it's also, again, even just that last formula that I did, that we shifted his base with. some of the girls were like, wait, what did you do? How did you do that? And again, it comes back to that drawing inspiration from your environment, playing off each other, giving each other ideas. We don't keep anything locked. You know, we give it to each other and like, this is what we use. This is how we do it. Because, you know, when it comes down to it, you're only as good as your weakest link, right? And so it's not just about making everyone great and influencing each other, but making an environment where guests can see that, oh, wow, like they're really drawing inspiration from each other. They're really helping each other out. I can't tell you how many clients that I'll talk to and didn't even realize they knew my name. Mm. And I'm like, I've never done your hair, but maybe I've seen you once or twice, and they know you because we all talk and we all do our thing and we just have fun. It was just really cool. So that whole Chris experience was just, it was really cool.
Yeah, and I love that because you can just hear, like I can't follow the detail of the specifics of the violets and the colors and the free lights and what's going on with that because that's not my background. I'm a beauty school dropout. You got to remember that, bald and a beauty school dropout, and I get to work with them. So that's why. But you can hear her passion for what she does. Like it's so vibrant. It's so it almost sounds like it's brand new to her every day when she gets to create these wows in humanity all the way around her. So it's not just in the 10 or 12 people she's going to see for the day, but it's in everyone around her too, which is awesome because it's never a thing like been there. Oh, you're back again for your. It's now what's new, and I know you've invested a ton into always elevating your game. You know, going to classes and getting certifications with, you know, every color line that we've been involved in, and you know you've been through a lot of them, so you've have experience with a lot of them, but you've also invested your time in getting certified, traveling and spending a lot of money and a lot of time and being the best of the best in each area too. So
hence why I keep mixing up some of my flash lift and free lights. It's like I use so many different things between Wella and Redken, and we use Malibu, and there's so many different products that we use that if I do mix up a few, I apologize. Sometimes it's hard to keep all my stuff together. There's just an arsenal of tools that we have, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So, when you, back in those beginning years with us, because you went to the Votech at Collier County. Lorenzo Walker, and then started working with us right out of school. What was the story there?
Yeah, so I finished hair school and I started working with you guys while I was finishing up my marketing degrees. So I would work till about 4, and then I would drive up to Fort Myers and finish my college courses at night. So it was tiresome, but I worked that way for a while. I started at the Village. And then I got sent down to, which would have been, we were above Old Naples Pub. Oh, right. So that was back in 2001. And right. And I worked there, but I would work till 4. I'd go, and once I finished my degree, I just knew that I was falling in love with hair color. Like it wasn't really ever a question, although your dad trained me. And I have many fond memories of me, Linda, and Robert, Max. Oh, yeah. When we
Cigarettes.
Cigarettes, yep, yep. So we had moved to the Bayfront location at that point, and we had the Salon Academy, which eventually turned into an office. But we had the Salon Academy, and it would be Robert and Linda, myself, our mannequin stands, our mannequin heads, Max, cigarettes. I was not smoking cigarettes at the time. I didn't start till I was 27, but I've quit again, so we're good.
But Robert always had a cigarette. Anybody
always a cigarette,
like, even when it became a state law that you weren't supposed to or allowed to smoke, he still smoked in the
Robert's
salon.
world.
You knew
at
he was
that point.
there, right?
Yeah. Robert's world. We were just living in it.
That's right. That's exactly it.
So yeah, no, those were. You know, I certainly trained me, and I just couldn't ever find the passion for hair cutting that I had for color, and I just knew, probably came from my mom. Probably just knew that color and shapes and pieces just made so much more sense to me in color versus cutting.
Your mom's an artist.
Yeah. She's an artist, and of course, as you know, we have some of her paintings up at our Bayfront location. But just fell in love with it, and so I want to say it's about 2003 is when I went onto the floor because I assisted for a couple years, and then that's when I started traveling. I just knew right away it's what I wanted to do. So I just started Googling some information and found that the one Wella studio they had at the time was in Rockefeller Plaza on the first floor. And I was like, guess I'm doing this. So I just started traveling to the Wella studio and getting trained and going through their master color program. And then the rest is kind of history. Of course, then you switched up on us for a little bit with Redken. So I was like, cool, I'm starting this over. But
was the Redken one the one where I said, hey, can you fly to somewhere
you
tomorrow?
did. Me and Tracy were supposed to fly. Yep, like right away. We're going to meet a lovely woman who worked for them. I believe that was Leah Hansen. And we were supposed to fly up. Tracy, of course, her dog at the point had gotten sick. So I found out the next morning when I was meeting the Redken person in the lobby. I was like, where's Tracy? She's like, oh, she couldn't make it. I'm like, cool. I'm doing this solo. All right.
So Robyn was going up. I think this was to make the decision about whether
we switched or not. Yeah.
Right. So everything was put on her shoulders to say, go figure this out.
Yay. But and it was a really cool thing, and I'm actually glad it happened. Although I think we only had it from 2013 to 2015. And I'm glad we switched back because I do believe that Wella is definitely the color for the artist. Certainly always thought after my Redken experience that was more for corporate. And we're artists after all, so we need that liberty and freedom to be able to have the tools that we have with all this added background color. But I'm really glad it happened because what it did is it broke the science cabinet open for me again. And so I think one of the things I brought away the most was the difference in chemicals and how they were working, and then it really spurred on my passion to learn more science and chemistry. And so when we switched back to Wella, here I go again. Let's go right back through that program. I have so many certificates under 3 different names now.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Single, married, divorced, married again. So there's a few different names on those certificates. Hard to keep track of me.
So that's a good how you went through that, because now here's somebody who's gotten trained, certified, in love with it, everything's going well. One brand, that was the brand you were introduced to with us, right?
Wella, yeah, we had Wella right off the get-go.
So I show up and say, hey, we're going to look at this other opportunity. But that, and something you pointed to, I think it's really interesting because I remember that. And the reason why we even entertained it was looking at from the business perspective.
Absolutely.
And I was going, okay, business. What do they have to offer that we're not getting? And I was looking at the business side, and then we got these offers that were, this looks really tempting. From the education that they're promising us, and the dollars that they're promising us, and the investment in us that they're promising us. So the fact that you were even willing to say, I'll look at it, let's check it out and see what this is, and then go into it with an open mind and learn their whole game, which was completely different, but then also be able to see the distinction and the difference between them from an artist perspective.
Oh, for sure.
And what one provides and the other provides, and you're being in the business and around the business so long, being able to say, well, this is the artist, and then hearing that over time too, like I felt, because I've always asked, like, what are your thoughts, and Robyn will share what you think, you'll tell me, and hearing it from that perspective, like this is the artist's color line, like from an artist perspective, even your experience at the schools and the programs, and other people will have different opinions about that, but I have a ton of respect for your history knowledge and work in the same. You've done so much, so you've seen it, and then making the switch back again, because I remember that was a shift for everyone. It's a really, really big deal. Huge. For somebody to change their hair color and change their hair color line, the salon, and then we have to go through thousands of people and reformulate and change. Mm-hmm. And I know that was a ton on your shoulders, because you're reformulating not only for who you've got,
right,
and letting people know that, hey, it's okay, you're in good hands. I've got this one's going to work. Yeah, but you've been using that for 10 years. Why are you now switching to this?
Well, and you're totally different. So you're talking about Redken, which is an American line, right? And then you have Wella, which is a German line. So now you're dealing with the European line versus an American line, and they couldn't be any more different. But certainly they were offering a lot of business support, and then they were also more on the cutting edge at that point, really, when it came to chromatics, and then chromatics ultra rich. Certainly they were developing something with MEA, which monoethylalamine, it's a synthetic ammonia. It was what was in Color Touch, but they have to manipulate their developer to get it past the FDA. as demi-permanent. But, I think what was cool too, and again, it was such a challenge because it was going from American or European to American, and a different technology, and then Shades EQ was totally different, that it was such a learning curve. But at the same time, in those few years that we were away from Wella, they completely expanded their lines. And it was kind of interesting how we almost stayed on top of the trend, not realizing we were staying on top of the trend, maybe staying on top of the trend, and then switched back. I think it was all perfect. It all, I think, just happened the way it needed to happen. Yeah. And I think a lot of learning happened by everybody. Yeah. And so, as crazy of a ride that was for a little bit, it was worth it. Yeah. Yeah. It, in hindsight now, looking back, and then we also learned the systems that Redken, with the support of their Summit system, had. And, we experimented with that, and we learned a lot on that aspect of it too, because there were some of the business platform and business building tools that we use on that, and how to deliver service in new ways. And we experimented with that. And, we're always looking at what's next, what's new and different, but your willingness to grasp that. And I think, that's something that I have to acknowledge you for. And a lot of people within our organization, we have a lot of long-timers who, over time, it's not all peaches and cream. I mean, it's not all rosy and delicious and wonderful and all going great. I mean, every day there's something that every one of us is dealing with inside of this. And if it's another person, or if it's another system, or if it's me, or if it's you, whatever it is, there's always something. And I think something I like to point to, and I notice it in you, is your willingness to, because I think a lot of people have been in this relationship, our relationship together, longer than they've been in any relationship in their entire life, any relationship in their entire life. And it really takes something outside of, we had somebody who quit last week, and I hate that, because to me, it's like a failure. Sometimes I know when somebody's going to quit, maybe they should quit, and I want them to quit, or they're at that place where stuff's not going well, and maybe that's where they're at in their point. But when somebody quits and I don't know, like it's kind of a surprise to me. And one of the things I failed in that, in that whatever we promised wasn't delivered there. And I know that in that circumstance. But what I would like to coach, and this is what I was saying afterwards, because I interviewed her on her exit, I guess, whatever you would call it. Just say what happened. An exit interview? That's what the world calls it, yes. Whatever the hell it was. I just like, what happened? Tell me, what did we screw up? So, but what I was also sharing, and what didn't get put in, was that, listen, for somebody to be here for 19 years, 25 years, 30 years, 5 years, 10 years, takes something different than the norm. And that, for sure, is, there's no straight line of how we do things, or how we're going to do things, and everybody's different. So I don't always know, like, we may have a procedure, a policy, a way of doing business that's working. And then, we hit walls, or the market changes, or times change, and we've got to mix it up and do things differently. So, the change with the Redken or whatever it is. But there's always been points where, when those walls get hit, or when those obstacles that we hit, that instead of giving up, because a lot of times in a relationship with a man and a woman, they start, they don't bring me home flowers anymore. Oh, wow, and they don't tell me they love me anymore. All right. Between a man and a woman. You don't bring me flowers. You don't cook enough. You don't take out the garbage. Yeah, and all of a sudden, you start seeing the other one, somebody else who looks attractive, and oh my gosh, they said hello to me, and they were nice to me, and they acknowledged my new blouse, or whatever it was, and that all of a sudden this starts looking really bad, and that starts looking really good, and then all of a sudden you're like, seeing all that's not working here and all that could work over there, and the grass is greener syndrome. Of course. And to not have that happen, because it's natural to happen. But to be able to figure out what we need to do to get the grass green here,
to communicate and negotiate and figure out what we need to do to make things better here so that I'm happy here and I'm happy with where we're going and it's going to work. So that's a process. I mean, that's a never ending thing. It's never like everything's all done. So, and you've been able to do that well. And, I'll say, well, we're going to do this. And, you might say, okay, let's see how that works out. And then scratch your head in 6 weeks and say, are you sure about that? I don't know if that's worked. Maybe we could try this way, tweak it this way. What do you think about this? And, when I'm in the right place, sometimes you have to knock on my head a couple of times. I do my best to listen, but I'm not always in that place. And sometimes you have to hit me a couple more times to get me to hear that, hey, listen, we need to shift gears here and go somewhere else with that. So doing that together I think is so important. And I don't always, this is good to even talk about it because I want to make sure that everyone knows internally that, and externally too, for our guests too, like, hey, are we doing something that's, that we could be doing better?
Absolutely.
Why are we doing this? How can we do that better? And always be in that inquiry so that I'm providing you with a place that you love coming to, you love being here, you love being a part of this, and that you get to grow, and that your husband loves you more when you go home and you're not going home and dumping all over him to say, geez, you know what they did today. And there's those vent moments too. You have those.
You're going to need to have them anyways.
Right.
Eventually, any dude married to a hairdresser is going to know, or dating a hairdresser is going to know about hair at some point in their life.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And eventually we'll start analyzing hair when they're outside. Yeah. Try taking my husband to a football game. He's literally looking at everyone's hair color.
He knows now. Yeah. Yeah.
He does.
He could see.
Like, ooh, or, oh, that's really nice, babe.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Yeah. It's super cute.
I do that with toes now because Michelle's a distal extremities specialist and always working on foot and ankles. So when I see people's feet
makes
now,
sense. Speaking of feet, you are also wearing hamburger and hot dog socks. Is that what we're rolling on today?
Those are fried eggs.
Those are fried eggs.
Yeah, that's a sunny side up.
Okay, well, it kind of looks like a hot dog and a hamburger.
It could be a hot dog too. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I think the original probably just a little squished down to be more hot dog like.
Oh my goodness! Yes, so you look at toes.
Well, not
so
usually,
does Quentin Tarantino.
But I can. I'm not a toe guy. Like I don't look at them, but I can see things about toes now that I know that I've been taught. Because like, hey, there's pars cavus, or there's.
Oh God! Okay.
So I have that too. So the ongoing, the managing the relationship, the nurturing the relationship on an ongoing basis, and as you nurture and develop the team around you, because that's going on all the time. It's your peers, some who have been in the business even longer, but you're still nurturing each other. You're still kind of filling each other's buckets and adapting to whoever it is that we have on our team, because we could have somebody who's 17 years old and just got out of school, a cosmetology school, or somebody who's has 3 kids, is in their 30s, or is in a second career even. They were doing something else and they, came back to this field. So you're working with both of those groups of people to mentor, develop, train, teach them. What would you, I notice this when I go to the schools a lot to talk to some of the students, so many of them talk about color and how they want to be a colorist. And,
right.
That's their world. I don't like cutting and I don't want to do blows and I want to be a colorist. What are your thoughts on that? When somebody's saying that at the early stage, just in school, do you have any insight on that?
When it comes to that, I think in maybe an analogy that would be understandable would be learn to be a general practitioner first before you become a specialist. Because when it comes down to it, you still should know all the fundamentals of hair. And I can understand why people may want to love color more or cutting more. Some people think there's more money in color. It's actually all a wash, because when it comes down to it, to be successful, you have to be just a good hairdresser. You have to really be concerned about the guest. When you have success being with guests and making them happy, learning the art of consultation, that's when you become successful. And things will follow after that. But to really get into the business, you really should hone all your skills and then specialize later. But like I said, I really think the biggest thing I would say to those people is that's great to have something that you're passionate about. Continue with that, but learn the art of a good consult and being good to the guest and understanding that relationship. Because when it comes down to it, whether you have 5 guests in a day or 15 guests in a day, every single one of those guests needs to have your undivided attention, because they're coming to us for a service, but they're also coming to us. We form relationships, we form friendships, but a lot of that has to do with our compassion and our willingness to listen, our willingness to be able to give them what they want has to also come from within, versus focusing so much on whether it's going to be color or cutting or styling or braiding or makeup. When it comes down to it, learning to be with people, I think is really should be more the focus.
Yeah,
it's a big thing that took me a few years to understand, but I think that once you figure that out and you realize it's not about you or necessarily your edginess, it's really about your connection with the person sitting down in your chair. And that created a lot of freedom for me.
Yeah.
And so I certainly give everything I have to each guest. And I know that when it comes down to it, that's the most fundamental thing about hairdressing.
Yeah. I love that, because I see so many demonstrations of that. Like a couple weeks ago, you were working on trying to get a guest a particular service, and you were trying to find the slot, and you were working with Marina, and they needed to either leave town or whatever it was. You were going out of the way to find this slot for this person, and you were hitting some walls and obstacles.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it was a lot of walls. a lot of walls I ran into. But it worked.
Yeah, and in the end, I remember hearing back from you after she was how it all worked out. You made it all happen, and the fact that she was ecstatic and loved what she had done, but loved also that you had gone through whatever you went through to make that happen too. So it was about her experience at the end and what she was left with, and not just the haircut. It was like what she's, because it took something different than just, there's a slot, put her in the slot. I mean,
that could have easily gone so wrong. And in most places, I'm sure it would have. It'd been like, sorry, I can't do it. Like that's not us. Like, that's just not going to happen. Like, the person wasn't going to be with me. It's not like it wasn't about me. It was about her. And, Marina and I were just trying and trying and trying. But regardless, it's the act of going above and actually caring about the individual. And it worked. And like you said, she was just like, wow, I found a home. I found a hair home.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of, you demonstrate that in a lot of different ways. So it's, and I point to this because it's also for anyone else seeing it, but I also see it for us. And I like to emphasize it. The fact that, it takes a great deal of technical expertise. That is very important. A lot of training development. And then the other side of it is you got another human being on the other end there. Mm-hmm. What is it going to take to have her love everything about what I'm doing and listening to her and getting what her needs are? And so I just hear that a lot in what you're saying. So I think and I see it demonstrated ongoingly. And especially now as I look at, this is been a breakthrough year for you. You've always grown and gotten better and grown, but there's like been this leap. I would equate it to an athlete because she's an athlete too. But when an athlete goes and has some type of major surgery, or a pitcher has Tommy John surgery, or a football player has ACL surgery, or on whatever that is, and then there's always that: will they ever be what they were? Mm-hmm. And she actually had physical surgery, right?
Yeah,
surgery on your rotator cuff is what it was.
I had the shoulder reconstruction. It was an Arthrex procedure.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, we all know Rob's wife works for Arthrex. She does a lot of that running and all that stuff and teaching people how to use these parts. So I had an Arthrex procedure. It was shoulder reconstruction. And then when they went in there to do that, they realized I had a rotator cuff tear. So it was a longer surgery than anticipated and a much longer recovery than anticipated. So certainly I wasn't sure. There was that unknown of, am I going to be able to do this like to the full potential? But my biggest worry was, am I going to be able to sustain long days ever again? And am I going to be able to do the 5 days and do it? And I can. Yeah. And it's really exciting because I get to spend so much more time with people now. I get to meet so many more people now, and it's awesome.
Yeah. And I've seen a shift in another way too. Not that she came back as a stronger athlete, because she's always been strong in many ways, but also this other side of to have the kind of year that because the year wasn't about you in any moment. It never was about you throughout the entire year. Like, it was never me. It was us. It was, look at what she's doing. You were continually putting other people on a pedestal, and that's kind of some of the secret sauce, because that I see in somebody who's highly successful, and I'm so proud to partner with, is that there's always been that humility and openness and sharing with it too. So to continue to grow and get better is just awesome to see. And I'm saying these things because we don't even know who's going to listen to this. This is kind of an introduction to the whole podcast thing. So whether it's somebody locally or somebody who's been coming to you for years and knows you from so many of the other things that you do and participate in, because if you know Robyn, if you're anybody who knows Robyn, you know what her passions are outside of here. If you don't, there are two. There are many, but
there's two high up on the totem pole.
Too high up on the totem pole, and those two are
football, and cats. Oh, I love kitty cats and football.
So and other things too, because she's very involved with the Justin's or the
St. Matthew's house,
St. Matthew's
Justin's
house.
place. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It does so much for the programs and that, but also to the world of fostering and taking care of.
My boss was so kind to let me bring in many trapped cats to the office of our salon while I continue to work. You go trap, you get a cat, you bring it back, you put it in the office, you put a towel over it, you go work, you finish your day and take it home.
Yeah. That was what was the academy is now the rescue.
It was a rescue facility for quite a while, actually. I think it was the ringworm debacle that I was like, all right, I'm going to have to pump the brakes on trapping right now. There was a series of kittens that we scooped up, and that brought ringworm into the home. And with 4 cats, ringworm is not fun. Didn't even know they got it. I mean, I did. I mean, I'd heard about it. It's just one of those things where like, that'll never happen to me. But when you're, digging under people's trailers trying to get kittens out, it happens.
Yeah. She would go on a hunt. If there was one in an area, she would be,
there was many
make
hunts.
Sure she was going to save them.
I actually found that I still had my old Adidas breakaway pants. Still had them because I used those. I was just like, what can...
They're back now, so they're...
Are they really?
Yeah.
Do you think the MC Hammer pants are going to come back after the commercial last night?
Yeah, right.
You can't touch this.
He's still banking
Cheetos
on
that. Hands. Plus, there's a lot of people that are probably like, oh, those are some really cool pants because they've never seen them.
They're probably on their way back,
Yeah.
90s
Cheetos popcorn in hand.
So the whole cat world, whoever's a cat lover out there, just know that she's doing so much for the world of...
we love some cats.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And of course, if you could do a flashback, because I wish we had actually done the post-season. So I'll just add that in there, because in the beginning of the season, actually it was in July, I think. It was before even, maybe when OT, I don't know what goes on in July football.
We filmed it, I want to say we filmed it right, maybe a month after the draft.
Okay.
Is when we filmed it. So by the time you played it, some of those people were already cut.
Yeah,
which was fine, because let's be real, it was an intriguing season. Intriguing, ups and downs. Never, I mean, come on. Jameis Winston is like the 8th quarterback in NFL history to throw for over 5,000 yards in a season. He threw for 5,109 yards. It's impressive. That's obviously first in the league. He threw 33 touchdowns, which is second in the league. I think it was Lamar Jackson had 36, so he was number 1. He also threw 30 interceptions, which was 32nd in the league.
So number 1 in one category, number 32 in the other.
Yep, 1 and 2. So that's our debacle on his
She's
contract here.
a Buck fan.
Oh yeah, Tampa Bay Buccaneers for sure.
Bleeds, knows everything, all things, and I think it's great because Robyn and I were having this discussion because one of Michelle's goals for 2020 is my wife is to learn more about football because she just has no interest in it really, but she wants to know more about it. And Robyn was talking about having conversations with her because Robyn knows you can get more in a conversation from Robyn than you can watching ESPN for 24 hours. You'll learn so much in that short amount of time because her mind is, I don't know how she does it with no notes at all. She knows all things. 5,000 yards, number 8 in the city. Just ask her. She'll tell you.
Well, also
Okay.
Mike Evans and Chris Godwin also were, I mean, for Jameis Winston to have his 2 top receivers, which is Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, to catch for over 1,000 passing yards each. I want to say Chris Godwin had like 1,000, maybe 333, and Mike Evans was probably around 1,157, maybe somewhere around there. And I mean, he didn't have them for the last few games because they both ended up getting injured at the end of the year. That's pretty impressive. He's got really great numbers, but then he doesn't. So it's going to be interesting there. There's actually a lot of talk this year about why did Phillip Rivers, who's also in a contract here, why did Phillip Rivers just move his family to Florida? And there's been some chatter about Tom Brady, which is just baloney because let's be real, Tom Brady is not going to come to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially with our offensive line, which is our biggest problem the whole year. I want to say that Jameis Winston was sacked 47 times. 47 times. That's not anywhere Tom Brady wants to be.
Yeah, at his age, no, that wouldn't work
definitely
so well.
not. Definitely not.
Tough on him. Yeah.
So the hope is to go for a tackle in our first round. I think we picked 14th. So if we get a tackle and secure that, I think it's going to be interesting to see which way we'll know. I think we should know by March what we're going to do with Winston, whether we franchise tag him or maybe see if he'll take a dip in his pay to open up the salary cap a little bit. We'll see.
See, Bruce, are you listening to this? If not, you should be. And those who bet money on this?
Just side note, if Bruce Arians is listening, I would go with Josh Jones or Mekhi Becton in the first round, 14th pick.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are my 2 choices. You're welcome.
So you have to go back because at the beginning of the year, she was talking about everything that they need. So this was right after the draft last summer. She was talking about what their needs were, who would be best, and then she gave a prediction. And your prediction was really, listen, for you money guys and people betting money on these things, you're going to want to pay attention to her next year, okay? So this will probably end up being a spin-off Buck Talk podcast.
I did call Casey winning the Super Bowl by double digits, although, my God, did I get by with this by the seat of my pants.
Called it. You did. You did. We're just going to start getting more of these on record because she does. She says these things and it happens. So those of you getting your butts handed to you because you're listening to the guy you pay on the internet, you just have to pay attention to have your wife come to Robyn and get the inside picks on a weekly basis. So.
All right, what do you got next on the list?
So for someone who is listening that could be anywhere in the world that is talking about hair color or that is considering hair color for themselves, you see all kinds. You see people who've been to other salons, who've been to other colorists, and then you see people who have tried to YouTube how to foil your hair at home.
Dear.
And you get all kinds of both ways. What could you offer to the world about what to do in that situation, or somebody who's thinking about doing their hair at home, or somebody who's looking for a colorist somewhere? So 2-part question, I guess.
Okay, definitely a 2-part question because those are 2 very different things. People coloring at home. Sometimes I run into people who are just covering their gray, and it seems to be okay. Young girls, please stop buying boxes that tell you it's going to rinse out or shampoo out in 4 to 6 shampoos. It's not going to happen. And then you come to the salon with what was originally maybe purple or blue, and it's green. Please don't. Please don't. We actually have things as professional, which will save you a lot of money in the long run, that you can come in and actually have done. If you want a purple streak, a blue streak, a green streak, a mermaid streak, it's fine. You're going to spend a lot less money coming to the salon to get it done than doing it and then coming in and spending hundreds of dollars to get it fixed. So for that question, please don't. But there are some people who do some at-home color that maybe can't afford it, and it tends to be okay. Well, the problem that we have is when you come in, if it's gone too dark or something's gone awry, sometimes depending on the box that you've got, it might be Faria or certain things that we have a hard time getting out just because of the chemical reactions. So just be mindful of that if you're going to do at-home hair color, because if something does go wrong, sometimes it limits us. Sometimes we can work it out. It's fine. We get it out easy peasy. But other times it's not the case. And so it's about whether you're willing to cut corners to do it yourself and then spend money that you can't afford to spend to get it fixed, and just saying, you know what, let's just get it done professionally. And there's tons of things that we can do in the salon to help you stay budget friendly. You know, whether we try different products or different services, whether it's a gray blending, it's a color, it's a balayage, there's things that we can do, root shadows, root drags, that can put you on a budget-friendly path. So if that's the case, certainly come in, consult with us, and we can give you a plan. We can give you a plan that would help you stay on track with you, and then us help you try to stay on track with having beautiful hair. Because for women, a lot of us, our hair is our crown. So it affects people in a lot of different ways. But when you feel good about yourself, I think that you're your best self. You know, when you can feel good about how you look when you walk out the door, your hair looks good, you feel good, everything around you tends to just be good.
What if somebody's, how would somebody communicate if somebody's in Iowa or Michigan or somewhere else and out of our areas? The things you mentioned, how could they communicate that to a potential stylist without, what would they say to, like, I'm not cheap, but here's my budget, or,
Right.
Without it sounding, what's the way they could approach that in another salon?
So maybe even just taking that word out of the equation, like, this is my budget, this is what I can afford, just take it out of the equation and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm dealing with. This is how I feel when I look at my hair. One of the first things I like to ask people when they sit in my chair is, when you look in the mirror, what's the first thing you see? When it comes to your hair color, what is the first thing you see? Or when you look at your hair, what's the first thing you see? And focus on that. So if it's something that bothers you or something that you love, focus on that. I like to ask people, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to your hair color, your haircut, or your hair at all that you didn't love? Like, what was the worst thing? I like to balance what it is you can focus on when you see it versus things that you've had you don't like, and then try to find a happy medium. So if there's someone in Iowa that says, okay, maybe I am on a budget, don't necessarily feel comfortable talking about it, but I would like to find out a way to get my hair done professionally so I don't have to go to the store and buy a box and, cross my fingers it turns out okay. I would say Google some reviews, find a hairdresser, go in and talk to that person and say, the fact that maybe I have these 2 crazy white patches right here bothers me, but I don't necessarily know that I want to be married to the salon every 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8, 10, whatever. What are your thoughts? Like, what do you have? That's what we're here for. We're here for you to ask us what can be done to help you with whatever it is. And say, hey, what do you think? What are your thoughts? And say, well, how long would I have to be, or how consistent would I have to be to the salon to make that work? And do you have any other options that would help me maybe go a little bit longer in between visits? Just maybe I don't have the time. And you don't necessarily have to talk about budget. Yeah. So certainly it would be picking the brain of the hairdresser by letting them know what it is that bothers you the most. And I think that would be a good start.
Yeah. Just so they're not going down the path of sticker shock, that they have a sense of,
Right.
This is what it's going to take. This is how many times I'm going to have to come back in a year, or every 4 or 8 weeks, or whatever that is, so that it's not just do whatever you need to do to accomplish that, but what's it going to take on my end too. And I'm not even speaking about somebody who's on a budget, but people are just concerned. Like, I don't want to be going to a place that's a beautiful place, and I know that's the right person for me, but I also want to know that, my husband's not going to be looking at the credit card bill saying, what are you doing in there? Like, why is this so much, what's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
So having an understanding about the costs and, because sometimes we'll hear that about, if that's not always explained up front and people are left with that sticker shock sometimes of, well, why was that so much? Well, this look takes that. And so having that understanding from the beginning.
Absolutely. Conversations should be had. Conversations should be had about where the guest is, as far as like their activity level, their work level, like, how often are you willing to come in here? I know for me personally, I love to get my nails done. I love color on my fingernails. I'm not a lipstick person, I'm not a huge makeup person, but let's be real, I do not, and I would love to get a pedicure, but it takes hours. Like, I'm not going to go into a salon and get my nails and my toes done on the same day because I'm like, I don't want to spend that much time here. Like, I just don't.
Time, yeah.
And it's lovely, and I talk with them. I usually, trust me, I'm talking, as you know, I'm talking to everyone in the salon. I'm getting up and offering them water. I'm getting it up and I'm like, hey, can I get your towel? Can I do the help?
This is while you're at the nail salon.
This is while
right?
I'm at the nail salon, trust me. Jamie knows when I'm coming, I'm also one of their assistants. But I just don't want to spend that much time there. As I have other things I have to do. I would rather be grocery shopping, cooking, make ahead Monday. Like, let's be real. You got to prep for your week. You have business, you have work. Sometimes it's a time thing. So I think talking that out and understanding that is a good way to start up a relationship with your hairdresser.
Awesome. Good insights. Also, if people have questions see this or hear this, get those questions to us one way or the other.
Oh, for sure.
Via email, Twitter, Instagram, whatever way it is. And I'm sure we'll do many follow-ups, probably spin-offs with Robyn.
Sure.
Some in the world of hair color, some in the world of the Bucks and Bruce and that group. There's so many, many things that we can do and a lot she has to offer. So that's an opportunity for that.
And if you have questions about your cat, send them my
go.
way.
There we go.
Cat behavior issues, send them my way. I got you.
She means that too.
I do. I so do.
2020 goal. Do you have anything in your mind? Anything that you're working on this year for yourself, for your personally, professionally, life? Is there anything that you're up to? What's up for you now?
Okay. So some of the things that I think I've thought about for 2020, certainly more education. That's always up. Certainly one of my old associates and one of my best friend's daughters is getting married in Michigan in August. So my husband and I are going to fly out for that. I'm certainly going to start going through the Wella education classes that are being offered in New York. I did Platinum and Beyond last year with one of my girlfriends, Jess. So I think we're looking at going back. We're going to go back. I'm going to try to get a couple classes backed up and see what new they have to offer. Some of the other things is working on house projects. So my husband and I have been kind of doing that a little bit here and there. And so right now it's possibly calling Rebath because I don't want that monkey, the other monkeys, wrecking up my bathroom. If you've never seen the Rebath commercial, it's kind of cute. Baths, and then off my lanai floor. But other than that, I think my husband had such a good year last year as far as really kind of seeing everyone we could see. We got out to St. Louis to see my brother, which was amazing. My nephew is the quarterback of his football team, and he's got an amazing little arm on that kid. It was so cute. Did I tell you this? So I got to, he really wanted his Aunt Robyn on the sidelines, so I said, cool, I got you. And so I came down the sidelines, and he's quarterbacking his team, and the first touchdown he throws, he comes running off the field just pointing at me. I was like, oh my God, stop it. You're so cute. I love it. And he did. He actually threw for 3 touchdowns and ran for a touchdown that game. He's in 8th grade.
Wow.
But he got picked to play in an All-American team for all of the state of Missouri. So he got to go and did a traveling team and was quarterbacking there as well. So
awesome.
He's certainly got a promising future. He's my little shining star when it comes to football.
Awesome. So I want to leave everyone with this. So you're what are you obsessed with right now?
What am I obsessed with right now? I'm obsessed with so many things right now. One of the things I'm obsessed with right now is trying to get people away from the really ashy gray color. I'm really trying to get people into cleaner looks. I'm trying to utilize, I'm doing a lot of the Wella Blonde or toners that are newer, but really trying to take people into more believable colors. I'm really trying to do a lot of clean finishes. So I'm just trying to do a lot of those neutral finishes. And you think like a butter or a wheat or a sand. I'm trying to think of those cleaner neutrals that aren't warm by any means, but they're not gray and they're not violet and they're not ashy. Don't get me wrong. I still do those. I still have a lot of people that come in and want to have that super platinum on the ash side look. But I'm trying to veer away from that a little bit. So I've been really obsessed with using the Blonde or toners as well as creating different finishes in toners and glosses and glazes in both our Illumina line as well as our Color Touch line. So I've been having a lot of fun with that. Yeah, it's been cool. And of course, you know, I've been getting a lot of correctives lately. People have been doing a lot of damage. People have been getting either muddy or dark or green. So I've got a lot of people coming in with that. So I love working with some of the Malibu treatments that we have and some of the different products that we have to fix that without creating damage. Love that. And I love it when people can see that change and realize it didn't create damage and realize that their hair feels amazing afterwards. So I'm loving that in combination with people loving the shine. We do a lot of Wellaplex and fusion amino acid refillers. And so people are leaving with not just really cool, clean colors, but their hair feels amazing. And I almost ate the microphone.
That's what it's for. That's what it's for.
It's spongy. Okay.
That's perfect because that's like a snapshot in time of the current obsession and whatever it was, because we didn't rehearse this. This was just
definitely not.
What's on your palette right now? What are you thinking about right now? So that's what it is right now in February of 2020.
Yes.
So I thank you so much for, not just this, but all that's behind this, because there's a lot to it.
Thank you for having me. This was very scary at first. Did not realize it was going to be videoed. So, but yeah, no, this is good. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, well, you're great. You're great. I really love it. There's so much richness there. So much that I learned too. So we will for sure have follow-ups to this.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Thanks for kicking it off.
Right on.
Love you. Thanks.
Love you too.
Was it good?
Sometimes I sing too close to the microphone. Sometimes I hit it with my nose.